When I was 23, my grandfather died on a Tuesday morning in November, and I found out via text message while I was standing in the cereal aisle of a Walmart. I remember exactly where I was standing, between the Cheerios and the Great Value granola, and I remember reading the message twice, putting my phone back in my pocket, then picking up a box of oatmeal I did not need and placing it in the cart. I did not cry. I did not call anyone. I pushed the cart to the self-checkout, paid $11.47 for groceries I barely looked at, drove home, and sat on my couch for 2 hours watching a show I could not now remember a single frame of. That was how it started. My grandfather was not just their man. He was the most present adult I had in my childhood. He drove me to school on Fridays in his white Dodge pickup that smelled permanently of motor oil and black coffee. He taught me to cast a fishing line when I was 7, standing in 3 inches of water at the edge of a lake in rural Idaho, correcting my elbow angle with a patience I have never been able to replicate in myself. He was a man who said what he meant in the fewest possible words. And when I spoke to you, you felt it. His absence when it arrived was not abstract. It had a shape, a specific physical shape, but I did not let myself feel it, not immediately. What I did instead was what I had always done with things that were too large to face directly. I stayed busy. I went to the gym every day for the 3 weeks after he died. I cleaned my apartment from floor to ceiling on 2 separate occasions. I picked up extra shifts. I texted back quickly, smiled in photos, told people I was handling it well. And I was not lying. I genuinely believed I was handling it well, because I had confused the absence of visible collapse with the presence of actual processing. I had mistaken function for health. The first crack appeared 5 weeks after the funeral. I was driving back from the gym on a Saturday morning. It was early, maybe 6:30, and a song came on the radio. Nothing special, an old country song I vaguely recognized, something my grandfather would have had playing in the background of a Sunday afternoon. And something happened in my chest, not a thought, not a memory, just a physical thing like a door be opened in a room I had locked and walked past every day for a month. I pulled into a gas station parking lot, put the car in park, and sat there for 22 minutes. I did not go inside. I did not look at my phone. I sat there while something moved through me that I had been spending 5 weeks out running. That was not the low point. The low point came another 3 weeks after that, which is to say 8 weeks after he died, when the world had largely moved on and stopped checking in, and I had run out of the momentum that busyness provides. I started waking up at 4 a.m. for no reason I could identify. I would lie there for 45 minutes, unable to return to sleep, not thinking in complete thoughts, just aware of a weight that had settled somewhere behind my sternum and was not moving. I stopped answering messages, not dramatically, just slowly, the way you let dishes pile up until the kitchen is a disaster and you cannot remember when it started. I lost 12 pounds in 6 weeks without trying. I was eating rice, eggs, protein bars, you name it, but something about the way the body processes grief was burning through whatever I put in faster than I could maintain. The body and the mind are not 2 systems, they are 1 system, and when none is failing, the other will tell you in the only language it knows. The worst of it was the guilt I had not expected. Grief, I had assumed, would feel like sadness. What it actually felt like much of the time was anger. Anger at small things, a slow driver, a wrong order, a dropped charger. Anger that had nothing to do with what it was actually about. And beneath the anger was guilt for being angry. And beneath the guilt was the actual thing, which was that I had not called him enough in the last 2 years of his life. I had been busy. I had been 22, 23, building something, going somewhere, always in the middle of something more immediate. He never made me feel guilty about it. He never said a word, but I knew. And now there was no conversation left in which to fix it. One morning, somewhere around week 10, I sat down at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, and I did not get up for an hour. Not because I was paralyzed, because I finally just stopped moving. And sitting there in the quiet, I noticed something very interesting. I was not thinking about what I had lost. I was thinking about the lake in Idaho, the fishing rod, the elbow angle, the motor oil smell of the truck. I was thinking about who he was, rather than that he was gone, and for the first time in 10 weeks, the weight behind my sternum shifted slightly. Not lifted, shifted. Grief does not end, it just changes shape. If you're out there right now and you're in the middle of losing someone or something, because loss is not only people, it is versions of yourself, relationships, features you had planned, dogs you raised for 14 years, I want to tell you something that nobody told me. The dizziness is not helping you. I know it feels like it is. I know staying in motion feels like strength. But what it actually is most of the time is avoidance wearing productivity's clothing. And the longer you avoid it, the more weight it accumulates behind the doors you're refusing to open. The prescription is not comfortable and it is not quick. You have to give the grief a time and a place rather than letting it ambush you. Sit with it for 30 minutes a day, not to wallow, not to spiral, but to acknowledge it with your full attention. Write it down, speak it out loud to an empty room, sit in the specific silence of it, do that every day for as long as it takes, which will be longer than you want and shorter than you fear. Move your body not to escape, but because the body is holding the grief in a physical form and movement is one of the only languages that can reach it there. Walk for 45 minutes every morning, not with a podcast, not with music, just walk and let whatever surfaces surface. Do not time your recovery against other people's. Do not measure your grief against what you think it should look like from the outside. There is an old Japanese concept, mono no, where the bittersweet awareness of impermanence, the ache of things passing. It is not a problem to be solved. It is an accurate response to the reality of loving something that cannot last forever. The grief is the love with nowhere left to go. You are not broken for feeling it. You are not weak for how long it lasts. You are just someone who loves someone, and now they are gone. And that is the most ancient human experiences there is. Do not sprint past it. You cannot outrun it, and you will not. Every hour you spend outrunning it is an hour it spends growing larger in the room you have left it locked in. Open the door, sit with what is inside, let it move through you slowly, the way it needs to, on its own timeline and not yours. Grief does not end. It just changes shape. And slowly, if you let it, it changes from a weight into something that belongs to you, something that is just the permanent mark that love leaves when it has nowhere else to go. If you want to join me on my journey and see more videos like this, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching.